Alright guys, sad news is to be shared today. You know that god roll Wendigo that you have been chasing all week long? That explosive light, auto-loading spike nade god roll? Maybe you got one, maybe you didn't. Either way, I'm here to tell you that it's not really worth it. I ran a few GMs, got some god rolls, and then I put them to the test on the ogre inside the Grasp of Avarice dungeon. Now, this isn't a grenade launcher damage test. This is a meta weapons damage test. So you're going to see Rockets, Izanagis, Witherhoard in this testing. All footage here was collected by my good friend Tsukino. Shout out to them. They did an amazing job on all the high skill hot swapping. And man, there was a point that even I thought that this was overkill. But let me tell you the prerequisites. Damage testing was all done on the 1350 dungeon Grasp of Avarice, more specifically on the ogre boss. All weapons received a 15% divinity debuff, and it was the help with the Izanagi hitting their crits. And all weapons were in a well of radiance, applying a 25% weapon buff, but mainly just to keep us alive. That ogre is persistent. Now when it comes to the total damage, you might be off just a couple of rockets, and we're talking actually a couple, like one left over. But that's not gonna matter after you see these numbers. So keep in mind, when you see these numbers, it will only look worse for the Wendigo. Also, as an additional note, no weapon buff mods were used in this testing. Maybe obvious, maybe not, but either way, let's get into it. Starting us off is the return of the famed Izanagi and Wendigo hot swapping. Wendigo having explosive light that applies a 52% increase in damage, and Izanagi just being a badass. My friend Tsukino, when it came to their rotation, it was one Izanagi swap and then letting go of an entire mag of Wendigo. This of course now depleting the entire 6 stacks of explosive light stored in Wendigo, before going back to Izanagi and then depleting a whole nother mag into the boss. Now for the numbers, I'll cut right to them. Wendigo's base damage is 42,717, and with the explosive light buff, that will make it a 61,165 per grenade, but only up to 6 times. Izanagi is hitting for a whopping 118,704, so we can see who's really carrying here. Now onto those rockets for a brief summary. Tsukino did not use an explosive light hothead. They instead used a demolitionist Hazen's Vengeance, so no 25% perk boost here. So just note that it can get even worse for the Wendigo here as well. Hazen's is doing a solid 109,000 damage, 632 per rocket, just a little less than Izanagi's. And I am including Wolfpack rounds in this damage testing. 8 Wolfpacks are launched per rocket, each doing an impact damage of 1,157 and an explosion damage of 2,487. Timesing that by 8 and you get an additional 29,080 per rocket shot. Now for the Witherhoard, it's going to be 6,702 per tick, and Witherhoard ticks 17 times before you need to reapply, leading to 115,243 damage per apply. And then finally, fusion nades, just exploding twice for a grand total of 72,259 per grenade. Now, ignitions do exist, but they were not included in this damage. I know that sounds bad, but trust me, things are already bad for the Wendigo as is. If there's one thing you should know before you see these graphs, you should know that things only look worse for the Wendigo. But time to get to the first graph. Now, if you're reading the titles, you will see no GL buff in there. This means that the buff which will be coming to heavy grenade launchers and Lightfall is not present in this graph. I have that graph to show you right here. Now, it's stated that the buff will be 40% increase to miners and 20% increase to bosses. Therefore, only 20% was applied to this chart. And as you can see, this looks terrible for the Wendigo. You might also notice, or if I can direct your attention to the bottom of each chart, you will see that the Typhon is included. You will see the depressing reason for that later, meaning now. So moving off of total damage and onto the DPS for each Destiny 2 meta rotation, here you will see that Typhon out DPS'd Wendigo, simply because it can roll Demolitionist, and if you're using a Warlock nade build, it is an almost instant reload, thoroughly making Wendigo a worse option in terms of burst damage. And for total damage, an option that's just arguably worse than Izanagi Rocket Hotswapping. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now in gist, I have to give you guys the tough love. The numbers don't lie. Don't let me ruin your day though. If you want to still farm for this weapon, bring it into day one, by all means do so. But you won't be on my day one team, that's for sure. I hope this info has brought some more consideration to your loadouts, and if it has, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. I will see you in 2 days for Destiny 2's Lightfall expansion. Take care, fellas.